Hey readers, I've been immersing myself in lots of nonfiction lately, getting ready to be the very best teacher of nonfiction reading and writing that I can be. But it got me thinking, like, nonfiction's not as easy as I thought it once was. For example, nonfiction can be deceptively tricky. And it got me thinking, like, what makes nonfiction texts deceptively tricky? Meaning, like, they appear really easy at first, like, hey, I'm going to pick up this book about sharks and learn a whole bunch of facts about sharks. Or, cool, I'm going to pick up this book about space and learn a lot about space. But it's really not like that. One word I want to teach you that I want you to remember as we're immersing ourselves in reading nonfiction and even writing nonfiction is this word right here. Wait for it. Structure. Structure is what makes nonfiction so challenging. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's think about narrative for a second, since we've been immersed in narrative reading and writing for the last few months. Now, in narrative, there's a very predictable structure. Pretty much every time you read a story, there's a hook, something that draws you in. There's characters and problems, and then there's some rising action that maybe the problem's getting worse, so the character's facing some internal struggle or external problem. Then there's sort of a turning point where something happens that the story sort of shifts, and then the resolution and the following action begin to lead to usually a solution or a conclusion for our character. So when we read stories, fiction, narrative, mysteries, fantasy, all of that, we know what to pay attention to because it's a very predictable structure. We always pay attention to the characters, the setting, the problem, and the solution. But in nonfiction, there are a ton of structures depending on the writer's purpose. So depending on how the author or the writer wants to convey the information or their purpose in writing that piece. So we have to start really as nonfiction and informational readers and writers paying attention to structure, right? Because that's what's going to help us better understand the informational writing, the informational reading, or the nonfiction text that we're reading, and help us better write informational text in a way that we want to share our information with our reader. So these are two anchor charts that you're going to, if you're not already familiar with, you're going to start to become really familiar with over the next few weeks that identify a whole bunch of different common nonfiction text structures for you to look out for. So we've got boxes and bullets, which is really all about those shark books, those space books that are really just teaching you all about a topic. Then you've got cause and effect books, right? Or articles that show you that something happened and then they share with you the effects of that. Problem and solution. Lots of times writers write books to identify a problem and talk about a solution for that problem. There's pros and cons, like what's better, cats or dogs? What's better, McDonald's or Burger King, right? There are books or articles written all about that, which is similar sort of to comparing and contrasting two things, right? And then over here, you have how to, right? So sometimes books are written to teach us something through steps. There's books that are just lists. There's categories, so different types of or kinds of. You've got life cycles and timelines. A lot of time when you're reading a biography, it'll be more of a timeline, or a history book will be written in a timeline. And then these two I already mentioned. And sometimes books are written as a question and answer. So the writer will pose a question and then answer the question, right? So let's take a look at a couple actual books just to kind of sort of, again, bring this to life for you, because my goal for you is that as you start reading your nonfiction books and immersing yourself in nonfiction books, you're going to really be paying attention to the structure, right? So this book is all about bees, but it's written, the structure is question answer, right? So just see how the writer, each title, each heading is a question, and then they answer the question, right? So it's kind of like all about boxes and bullets because it's all about bees. So the structure is that, but it's also written as a question and answer. Then we've got books like this, which are really boxes and bullets or just all about. This book is going to be all about sharks, and it's going to teach me all about sharks. Now we've got who would win, right? And you can probably guess, right? Lion versus tiger. This writer is choosing to teach us about lions and tigers, but through a compare and contrast structure. So we're going to be learning about each of these animals, but the structure of the text is compare and contrast, where I know you guys are familiar with this. One page is going to talk about a lion, one page is going to talk about a tiger, and then at the end, they battle. Here's that compare and contrast, right? Cats versus dogs. This writer is going to show us like what's great about cats, what's great about dogs, through facts, and then we're going to have to kind of form our own opinion based on the information that the author shares. Tornadoes, usually wild weather. Tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis. This type of book is going to be written with a cause and effect, right? Like talking about what causes a tornado and the effects of a tornado on people and on communities, right? So typically wild weather books, you can expect maybe to have some description, so some all about, but usually cause and effect. This one, what if you had animal feet, is kind of neat. It's an all about animal feet, so it's definitely boxes and bullets, but then it also has this text structure over here, like if you had housefly feet, you'd be a basketball star. So it's got that cause and effect structure as well. And then I like this one, 10 things I can do to help my world. Here we're just going to have a list, right? The writer, Melanie Walsh, is just going to write a list of 10 things that we can do to help our world. That's the text structure of this book. And sometimes in articles, it's really easy to tell, right? Like if you look at the heading, pro, con, should the Olympics always be in one city? So right away, by reading the title, I know that the structure of this article is going to be pro, like what's good about the Olympics always being in one city, and then some cons, like what's bad about the Olympics always being in one city. And then finally, where's another one that I was looking at last night? Oh, this one was problem and solution, right? And again, by the heading, the title, don't ever skip the title. Common mask wearing annoyance inspires a crafty solution. So when I see solution in the title, I'm automatically thinking like, ooh, this article is probably going to be written like problem and solution. The author is going to present the problem of a mask wearing annoyance. Maybe it's itchy or keeps sliding down. And then they're going to present the solution. Somebody must have invented some crafty solution to solve that problem. Right? So do you see how I did that? Like, I want you to really be paying attention. Again, be thinking about that one word I shared, structure, as you're reading nonfiction. And really start paying attention to what type of structure the author has chosen for that book you're reading or that article, because that's going to really help you better understand the information in the article and therefore enjoy it, right? I hope that was helpful. Happy reading.